There's music everywhere. The stars are in the sky. I don't know all the lyrics, but you probably don't know them either. Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming at you to review an exploitation cinema Italian movie from 1978. In North America, it's known as, well, it's not really pretty much known at all, but for anyone who in North America that knew anything about it, it's called Hitch-Hike, and the Italian/European title is much cooler and can be read right on this poster here. And how cool is this poster? Obviously, probably the Italian/European release poster for the film, and just how cool is that image of the chick with her sexy legs and whatever his name is, Franco Nero there in his camping outfit and camping shirt, outdoor shirt, and some guns there and stuff like that. I became aware of this movie probably somewhere around 2008 because I got this Blue Underground DVD that came out. It seems to me a buddy of mine had this first, and then I saw it or saw some of it and was like kind of right up my alley, being like I mean, it's not what you'd really call a camping movie, or I mean, I guess it's kind of it's like a camper movie, like a camper that you pull behind your vehicle, kind of a camper movie. So being a fan of David Hess from Last House on the Left, on the left, of course, and things like that, obviously, and being a fan of Italian movies and Italian women as are featured in this movie, and I don't think I really knew much about Franco Nero at the time, but I've seen him in more things like Enter the Ninja. I think Enter the Ninja is pretty much the only other movie I've really ever seen him in. But at the time, I think this was the first Franco Nero movie I've ever saw. Of course, I knew this woman, Corinne Clary, from Moonraker, of course, and I don't think I've ever seen her anything else besides this in Moonraker. So for some reason, this occurred to me, just because the weather's getting nicer and stuff like that, it occurred to me this movie just sprang to mind, and I was just like, well, let me pull out the DVD and give this a rewatch. And I probably haven't seen it very much in like over 10 years. It was kind of fun to revisit. It's basically it's a movie that's supposed to take place, I think, in Nevada, or the Southwest United States. Was actually filmed in Italy, and they actually put up like a gas station. Or I don't know if they put up a gas station, but at the very least they redid the signage on a gas station to make it look American with English writing and stuff like that. They put up like a Vegas billboard and stuff like that. So this movie was shot in some desert-ish area of Italy, made to look like Nevada or something like that, which was kind of interesting. Incidentally, you can kind of tell that it's really not Nevada per se. I don't know if it's because of the landscape more, or just the fact that all the people that are in the movie seem to be actually European people versus North American people. You can just tell by looking at people if they're from Europe or America. I don't know, whatever. So when I was watching this movie, I'm like, gosh, this was filmed in. But then I watched the interviews they've got interviews with David Hess and Corinne Clary and Franco Nero on this particular release, which is really cool. And no, it was supposed to be in Nevada, but it was filmed in Italy or whatever. So the premise of this movie is very simple. You've got the main star here, Franco Nero, is some kind of he's married to Corinne Clary, and from the very get-go, when you first introduced to these characters, I mean, this guy's kind of just a sadistic asshole to his wife, and kind of just treats her almost like just a ragdoll sex toy, basically. And basically just, it's funny how the movie begins where they're like hunting or whatever, and he's got a rifle pointed at her, and it's kind of the way we introduce both her and him is, he's got her in his sights, in the scope, whatever you call it, the scope of his rifle thing, and it's just kind of a creepy ass way to start the movie. And then he'll go and do this thing, which I guess is something that they do, which seems to be a regular thing they do, where he kind of bullies her and gets on top of her, and she's all doesn't really want anything to do with him, and then she kind of gives in to his manness, or his male prowess, or whatever, or his sexual bullying, or whatever the hell he's doing. And she'll be hesitant to play along with the sexual advances, and then she'll just give in and just be like, oh, oh, so she's kind of like, I don't know, nympho, if they're like a sex-crazed couple or whatever, he's an asshole and kind of uses her and abuses her, and I guess she just stays with him. We don't know exactly why. But since it's a movie that's not rated X, it's possible that he's got, I'm not going to go there. We don't know why she stays with him, but at this point in the movie, she's still with him, and I don't know, perhaps, they've been married for a while, and perhaps if, the events that ended up taking place in this movie hadn't happened, maybe they would have gotten divorced or split up not long after this. It's hard to say, but, for a movie like this, those kind of elements aren't really the important point. What basically happens is, we're introduced to these two characters who are just, driving around, supposed to be in Nevada, and pulling their trailer, their camping trailer, and camping around this and that, and I guess they're done and they're on their way back or something like that, and they end up picking up the David Hess character, who's, basically on the side of the road with his car. And back in the old days, in the 70s, people would stand on the side of the road and do that. That would mean they want to ride. They'd be hitchhiking. In case any of you millennials don't know what the hell hitchhike means, that's what happened back in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever. And I think through a combination of fear-mongering in the media and movies and stuff like that, hitchhiking has kind of gone away, or been, like so many things in North American culture, existence or whatever. It's been one of these things that people, culture, media or whatever, scared people away from doing. And, I guess it's not probably the safest. To be fair, it's probably not the safest thing to do, is pick up a stranger or whatever. But this movie, I guess, is more of that, late 70s, early 80s, beginning of programming showcases the dangers of hitchhiking, as it were, as they pick up a homicidal maniac who, I guess with the help of two other guys, robbed some place. I don't know all the details, but he robbed some. They got like $2 million or $3 million in cash in a suitcase or whatever. So that's the premise of this movie, basically. They pick up this David Hess character, and I think not very long into the situation, it's revealed that David Hess is the guy that's stolen the money, and he whips out his gun. I mean, his pistol, his pistol gun, with the bullets in it. I mean, and basically takes these two hostage and wants him to drive them someplace or whatever. So that's the basic premise of the movie. I'm going to spare you a beat by beat by simply just introducing how the movie starts, and give you the overall gist of the movie, and basically saying that's what the movie is. One thing I kind of realized by watching this again, having not seen it for quite a long time, is we've got a running time of 104 minutes, which is basically close to an hour and 45 minutes long. Having revisited it again for the first time in over 10 years, I kind of personally think that maybe it's like 10 or 15 minutes too long, but it's really not that big a deal. I was sitting here watching it going, God, I can't remember how the hell this movie ends. And while I won't spoil it for people, I would imagine most of you, it's possible that you haven't seen it. I'm not going to spoil the ending. I will say that, oh God, it definitely plays like an Italian exploitative movie by the way it ends. I mean, I don't think if it was made in America it would necessarily end this way, unless of course it was directed by Wes Craven. It might end this way, or Tobe Hooper or something like that. But it really goes there with the end, and to be honest, it's kind of an interesting commentary on humanity, if you will. And I guess you can't really understand what I'm talking about if you haven't seen the movie. But so many times in my reviews, I just spoil so many movies and what happens and stuff. And I think, with movies that are more well known, maybe that's okay to do that with. But since this is such an unknown movie, and probably not a lot of people have seen it, I'm not going to really ruin too much of the movie. One thing I will say about the running time that I guess just probably adds to the movie's bloated running time, is that he ends up coming across like the two other guys that I guess he ditched and left behind, I think, or something. End up, the two other guys that helped rob the money with him, I think he ditched or something and went off with the money by himself, and those guys end up finding him again, and that's the kind of the part of the movie that kind of bloats the movie and kind of makes it longer than I think it really needs to be. But I guess with, if you didn't have those two characters and other people they happen on by to kill and stuff, there wouldn't be really much going on, or people dying or this and that. So I guess that's a way to have have this David Hess character actually kill some people instead of just like threatening to kill people. And I don't know what the hell the body count is in this. It's not a big deal. David Hess blows away 2 cops, and then I'm sure he kills these without, well, I guess I'm kind of spoiling a little bit of it, but he kills these 2 other guys that helped rob the money with him, and then he ditched them, and then he found them again only to be killed by them, and so that's pretty much all I'll say. What's my star rating for this movie? We'll go 2.5 stars out of 4 stars for Hitchhike. It's not a movie that is particularly amazing. Like I say, I do feel it's a little bloated, a little longer than it needs to be. But one thing I do love about it is just the late 70s feel to it. David Hess doing... If you like David Hess in Last House on the Left and haven't seen this movie, you might like David Hess in this role as well. It's almost like it's kind of almost a little more mainstream version of Krug from Last House on the Left. I mean, Last House on the Left was so just... frickin', the original I'm speaking of course, not having seen the remake, why would I? The original Last House on the Left is just so raw and just documentary seeming. It just seems real what's happening on the screen. This is a little more, if you were going to kind of more mainstream the David Hess character from Last House on the Left, that's kind of what he feels like in this movie, And from what I understand, he did at least 3 roles like this, Last House on the Left, his role in this movie, and then a movie called The House on the Edge of the Park, which I've got on tape but I've never actually seen yet. But one thing I will say about this movie is if you're like a camping/camper enthusiast, it's kind of fun because the whole movie is basically outdoors, and they're just towing a camper behind and staying in the camper, and the guy will kind of rape his wife every now and then they'll go somewhere else, then they'll rape his wife. It's funny how like halfway through the rape she'll consent and start to enjoy it. It's kind of a sick situation, their marriage, their quote-unquote marriage is kind of a sick situation, if you will. But one thing I will say before I end the review is there's this tune, this kind of what I call a hippie tune, which is really kind of a cool tune. I've since found it on YouTube and recorded it off YouTube and stuff and been playing it just around the house when I'm just doing this or that or whatever. But ever since I saw the movie back in 08 or 09 or whenever I saw this movie for the first time, I'm like, that's a really kind of a cool 70s, quote-unquote kind of hippies tune. It's the one that I tried to start the review with. It's like there's music everywhere, the stars are in the air, there's music, the stars are, my heart is open wide, blah 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 blah. But it's basically just that, those notes, and then they'll change the lyrics throughout the song. And the sun will make us warm, at night the moon will shine. But it's just kind of a cool, they first sing it around the campfire at the beginning of the movie where they got their trailer park and stuff. But then when they go on further into the movie where they start driving around, there's actually an actual kind of recorded version of it that's played like at least 2 times, maybe 3 times throughout the course of the movie. Kind of a fun 70s, I don't know, hippie song, if you will. But I think that'll pretty much do it, for my review of Hitchhike, aka however the hell you pronounce this particular title. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, we'll catch you on the next video.